again, we were talking about $40 million coming into this weekend. And then Thursday night previews happened. And then Friday happened. And they moved it from 40 million to 50, to 60, to 70, to 80. And now we're looking at 83. We still don't have actuals for Saturday and Sunday yet. So do not be at all surprised if this thing comes in over $85 million. Renegade Online. The Conjuring last rites just a few days ago, like Wednesday this past week, 4 days ago, 5 days ago now. The Conjuring was estimated to pull about a $40 million opening box office weekend domestically. And on top of that, about an $80 million total global box office. Well, screw that. It did $83 million by estimates right now. Now, what do we always say? When the estimates radically exceed, or excuse me, when the estimate, well, let me back up. When the estimates begin to radically exceed the earlier estimates is what I meant to say. We know where this is going. The actuals for this movie, probably by the time we get them on Monday afternoon, tomorrow afternoon, are going to be more than 83 million. Again, we were talking about $40 million coming into this weekend. And then Thursday night previews happened. And then Friday happened. And they moved it from 40 million to 50, to 60, to 70, to 80. And now we're looking at 83. We still don't have actuals for Saturday and Sunday yet. So do not be at all surprised if this thing comes in over $85 million. Let's talk about what's going on here because, again, this is a movie that has a mere $50 million budget, and Warner Brothers has been doing this all year. They are printing money right now. They are printing profit. Sunday morning, again, this article was written something like 8 hours ago now. So whatever happened Sunday, today, since then, may well blow this out the water. And I'm going to talk about this because I went last night to a late show in IMAX to go see this film. Well, no one saw this coming, says Anthony D'Alessandro, but what an awesome jolt to what was expected to be a sleepy September. Yeah, remember we were just talking about a week ago about how the box office doldrums of 2025, the summer, basically came in on par with 2024, which if you actually do a proper economic adjustment, hey, finance and econ major, professional here. If you actually do a proper inflationary adjustment, if you put in the economic calculations and get a real number, an inflation adjusted number, technically this summer is actually worse than last summer, or was worse than last summer when you put in that inflationary pressure. Well, here comes The Conjuring right after Labor Day to pick up the slack. Nobody saw this coming. It had all the blessings from the weekend, The Conjuring did, who made the film the third highest opening ever for a horror movie, both domestic at 83 million and globally, wait for it, $187 million. It's over double what they projected. They thought the global box office weekend was going to be around $80 to $90 million just 5 days ago. It has doubled that. It is more than doubled that. The original global outlook, 80 million on Last Rites. Last Rites ranks as the 8th number one opening for Warner Brothers this year. The 8th number one opening for Warner Brothers. And also their 7th movie. Listen to this. Their 7th movie to open north of $40 million this year. This year. And the bulk, take Superman out of the equation and you look at what else Warner Brothers had on the docket. I mean, there was no real massive over-the-top crazy IP. I mean, we're talking about mostly horror movies at this point, over half of them. Okay. Warner Brothers is now ranked number one domestic, overseas and global market share with 1.73 billion stateside, 2 billion international, 3.77 billion worldwide. Warner Brothers New Line owns the first two big horror openings with It Chapter 1 and It Chapter 2 at 123 and 91 million respectively. Now, again, also consider how many years ago the two It movies came out. I think it was they were both before COVID. Weren't they like 2017, 2018? So you do some inflationary adjustment in there, and those numbers today would actually be significantly larger. But It was connected to an extremely well-known, very popular Stephen King franchise that had been around a long time, huge cult following. And I'm not trying to shake a stick at The Conjuring. Yes, The Conjuring is part of a franchise that has now been around nearly 10 years, but remember, it started from nothing. It was an original. It came from one of Stephen King's most popular, most well-known, most celebrated horror novels from, now, what was it, 40 years ago, something like that it came out. So longer than that. So a little bit different. Also, don't forget that the two It movies had significantly higher budgets than did The Conjuring, the new Conjuring movie. I mean, nearly, and we're talking almost 10 years ago now when those movies were greenlit. Those two It movies, I believe, had budgets of nearly, I think it was like $100 million a piece. So those had significant budgets by comparison to $50 million today for the budget of The Conjuring. So good on them. This is also from New Line. New Line is killing it this year. New Line, which is part of Warner Brothers, seeing its third back-to-back horror hit after Final Destination, Bloodlines, and Weapons, and now The Conjuring. Again, Atomic Monster was involved on this one as well, I believe. New Line Notch owns the top three openings at the horror box office. The Conjuring Last Rites opening is technically also the biggest opening in Blumhouse. There it is. I didn't read this whole article earlier, as you can tell. Also the biggest opening in Blumhouse Atomic Monster history, surpassing Five Nights at Freddy's, 80 million. Now, look, Five Nights at Freddy's didn't come out that long ago. We're not talking about an 80 million that was pre-COVID. We're talking about an 80 million opening from, 2 years ago now? I think 23, right? It wasn't last year. It wasn't 24, 23. So that is strong. I mean, Five Nights at Freddy's has a massive following. That is a huge piece of video game IP for younger audiences, right? So, I mean, to come out and get on top of that is amazing. Now they go into something here that I want to remind folks. This was from the Saturday AM. And they talked about, how this movie scored. At this point, really not important because horror movies typically don't score that great with things like ComScore. They just don't. I mean, if you get a B+ or something like that on a horror movie from ComScore or CinemaScore, you're probably doing pretty damn well, which I think this one got a B or a B+. What I want people to remember, though, and this is what's so impressive, I want to go over here to what's going on in the international box office as well. And again, $187 million global bow. Absolutely astonishing numbers here for this thing. This is bonkers. But what we want to do is kind of go into, I'm not so much concerned about where the money came from the markets. We got to look at is this, the Conjuring franchise. And I want to give everybody kind of a heads up here. Now, this is how many movies are in this franchise. This is going to be, when this movie concludes, a nearly $3 billion box office franchise. That's how big The Conjuring is. And a lot of people forget all the movies that are tacitly connected to it one way or another. Apart from The Conjuring 2, The Conjuring 3, which was The Devil Made Me Do It, The Conjuring Last Rites, which is out right now. You also had the spin-offs like The Nun 2, Annabelle Comes Home, and The Curse of La Llorona, which a lot of people haven't seen La Llorona. It kind of skipped past a lot of domestic box offices, I think, because it was a Spanish language movie, but it's part of the Conjuring franchise. Actually, extremely good. But here's the deal: look at this line here. Look at how far out in front on day 3 this sucker is. This is bonkers. This is absolutely bonkers. And just to kind of give you an idea, Let's look at the third Conjuring movie, okay? The Devil Made Me Do It. I just want to show you this real quick because this was the last Conjuring movie that came out. And what's important to note about this, look at the total domestic box office for The Conjuring 3. 4 years ago, $65.6 million. Anybody remember what was going on at Warner Brothers that year? This was right before David Zaslav took over. Jason Kilar and Project Popcorn. This movie that cleaned up $206 million, did $65 million at the domestic box office, was released day and date with theaters on HBO Max. Not PVOD, not pay $30 to watch it or go to the theaters. No. Hey, you got HBO? You can watch the brand new Conjuring movie instead of going to the theaters, right? This is part of the reason that Jason Kilar was fired like on day one when David Zaslav walked in the room. And this is why we say David Zaslav's the new king of Hollywood. He has built this. Look at what the last movie did compared to this. $65 million domestically for its entire run versus what I think is going to be at least $85 million on an opening weekend for the new Conjuring film once the actuals come into play. Look at the worldwide box office at 206. The global box office for The Conjuring: The Last Rites 4 years later is going to be the entire global box office for the whole run from the previous movie. It's going to be close to $200 million. It's probably going to be over 190 by the time we get the actuals. It's astonishing. I mean, you start thinking about where this movie could leg out to from here, and it gets a little scary. I mean, look at this one. Even with, and I want to pull this up. Look at the legs. Look at the legs. 2.72. That's $65 million that was released day and date on HBO Max. Same day it went to theaters in 2021, thanks to Project Popcorn and Jason Kilar. No longer there, fired. It went 2.72. Let's start thinking about a movie that doesn't go day and date. What did it look like? Let's look at The Nun. The Nun opened with $53.8 million. The Nun is the biggest box office haul, again, unadjusted, out there. But even if you adjust it, it's going to be pretty close to it. The Nun, $366 million. This new movie is now pulling almost double what The Nun did. It's going to come in at 85. Call it a jump up of about 40%, 45, 50, 60%. Sorry, my math is off today. I'm looking at too many numbers on the screen. But point being here is that this movie is rocking and rolling, absolutely rocking and rolling. And it could not come at a better time for theaters and could not come at a better time for Warner Brothers, who continues to just roll it this year. Look at The Nun. Let's look at this real quick. What was the roll-off? 2.18. Big opening and then fell back, right? Okay, let's go back and look at some of the other ones. Let's look at what was the last? We got The Nun 2, 2023. The Nun 2. That had a 2.65. So my point is this. If we just kind of take the middle road there, because again, they're horror movies. It's a different audience style, right? Let's take the middle road. And let's say that the new Conjuring: The Last Rites goes 2.5. Average, global, 2.5, right? And we know we don't know, but I want to say that we're almost positive right now with a very, very, very reasonable degree of skepticism that 187 figure is going to be wrong and that it's going to be higher, okay? That it's probably going to be over 190 million. I wouldn't be surprised if that total comes in at 195 by the time it's all said and done. But let's just split the difference and let's call it 190 million, okay? And we're going to multiply that by 2.5. That's 475 million. 475 million if this film just does a 2.5. 475 million for a $50 million horror movie that is like the eighth entry. Where are we at? The eighth. What is this? Let's go back. Let's count them up. How many is this? We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10. 10. We have 10. This is the 10th entry in the Conjuring franchise. The 10th. And it's going to blast. Look, if it does 2.5x, it blows The Nun out of the water. Even if you adjust that 2018 figure for The Nun up, for post-COVID inflation, this new Conjuring movie is still going to give it a run for its money. Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.